Hello, class, and welcome to week 4. This week, you have a little bit of a different type of case analysis. You're going to be working with a couple, Daryl and Samar. For many students, just working with one person is challenging enough. And so the idea that there might be multiple people in the room, it can become quite daunting. What I like about this case analysis, when I say you're going to be working with, obviously you're not working with the two gentlemen in the case study. Rather, you're reading sort of a transcript of what happened in the sessions with their counselor. And so you have two men and you have a counselor, and it's a very dynamic and completely cultural situation. And so I hope that you're able to apply the concepts that you're learning in the course to that case analysis. I also want to thank you all for the work you're doing in the course thus far. I know we're only in week 4 only. However, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of risks. You're taking a lot of risks to really look inside and challenge some of the biases that you might have, or even think about what biases you might have. In some of your journals and on some of your discussion videos, I suggested sometimes our biases are not always known to us, and it's not until that person is sitting across from us in the session that we become aware that there's something that I need to work on, either in a clinical supervision or with a personal counselor. And for counselors who are unable or unwilling to look at those biases, these are the individuals that we really have great concern for and who need probably to get some help immediately. Because as many of you said, we're all human. The fact that you may or may not say something in session to cause a client to want to correct you, it doesn't mean that you're a terrible counselor. What makes you a less than stellar counselor is, again, an unwillingness or an inability to really look internally, engage, and be honest with yourself about what's going on in the session. Related to that, this week you have some phenomenal resources, and I added some things into the classroom. You'll see an image of the genderbread man, which is also brought up in the TED Talks that you all will watch this week. And I also included a little small snippet of a YouTube clip from Wanda Sykes. One of the things that I like to do for my self-care is laugh. And I really enjoy this bit by her because she compares coming out to sort of being an African-American woman. And while hyperbolic, what makes me laugh about this particular clip is that parts of it resonate with my own coming out story. So I hope that if you have a few minutes, you can check that out and sort of engage in some self-care. The last part of this announcement deals with, again, bias. When I was in my master's program was when Hurricane Katrina happened. And when Hurricane Katrina happened at that time, it was a very much of an expose in a number of things, socioeconomic status, race, class. It was just the myriad of things were on the forefront as individuals who were unable to leave certain districts of New Orleans remained, and there was a lot of flooding. Now, I've never been to New Orleans, but while I was in my master's program, we were listening to an interview on NPR, and several people were talking about their experience trying to evacuate the lower parts of the city. And again, I've never been, but I do recall in this interview, there's a bridge that apparently these people were trying to leave the lower areas of the city, crossing the bridge to higher ground where they would, no longer be in threat of floods. And while they were crossing the bridge, they were met on the bridge by the sheriff, who have pointed a gun at them and told them to turn around and go back. And literally, you could have heard a pin drop in our classroom as we were listening to this interview, listening to the emotion of the people. And my instructor pauses the interview and she says, we processed what we had heard, and she says, could you work with any of these individuals as your clients, the people who were trying to evacuate and cross the bridge? And all of us were like, yes, of course we could. Then my instructor says, now could you work with the sheriff? And again, you could have heard a pin drop. And that's the litmus test I share with you. I think oftentimes we think about bias, we think about maybe people who might be less fortunate than us or completely different from us. But what about the individuals who embody or do things that you disagree with? Embody or do things that you might find, reprehensible? Can you work with those people? And that's how we really check our biases. So let me know if you have any questions about this announcement or any of the feedback I've been leaving in your papers and on your videos this term. And again, thank you all for your hard work.